Welcome back to The Marketing Perspective. I'm James and I'm the host of your show. I'm excited about season 2. We are already off and running, and we have been recording for a bit. We've got 4 or 5 in the can, and I cannot wait to share them with you. This is a whole new season. We've added video to it, as you can tell. We're also have some very special guests on this year. Everybody has been handpicked by their category. They're all experts and professionals in their industries. The purpose of this is we're a topic-driven show, as you know. And the idea is that we're sharing information with you, the business owner, so that you can use it for your own purposes. Remember that everything I say is always from a marketing perspective. Sometimes I go off task, but don't listen. I know marketing and everything else. That's why I'm bringing on the experts. Today, I'm really excited about this because you hear me talk about experiential marketing a lot. What the heck is that, James? Some people don't understand. Experiential marketing belongs in every single strategy. I don't care if you're B2B or B2C. It doesn't matter. Some of you are doing it on a regular basis and don't realize it. They used to call aspects of it guerrilla marketing, right? In a sense, it's a portion of it. But this could be such a huge topic. But today we're talking about one specific area. We're talking about event planning and event marketing. And we're going to take and then execution of those events. And I have a very special guest on today. It's Gayle Hellemn from the Farm Bureau Expo Center. She is going to knock your socks off. I'm pretty positive because she's a consummate professional in what she does. She's going to lend a lot of insight. So I hope that you're really listening because at some point you will do events. At some point, in some way, shape, or form, an event will happen in your life. I want you to know that experiential marketing, while it's not a part of traditional advertising, which is TV, radio, billboard, all that kind of stuff, it's not part of digital advertising. It's in its own lane. Events is only one portion of it. By definition, experiential marketing is a brand needing to connect with consumers through experience. That's the concept. Pop-up stores, virtual events, trade shows, which is a part of what we're talking about today. Innovative and creative experiences that you create where a consumer can interact directly with a given brand. That's the concept. 2 quick examples. My favorites, Coca-Cola did a Friends campaign years ago. I don't know if you remember it. It's why the cans have people's names on it. Now, you may still see that out and about because they made millions of them, right? Well, years ago, they actually did a campaign about it. And the Friends campaign was like this. You know the big Coke machines that are randomly vendor machines all over the place? Well, they made machines that are twice as tall. Why would they do that? Because they made the slot to put the money in just out of reach, which made you have to have a friend. They did video of it, and they used people on piggybacking on each other's shoulders. It was hysterical. The goal was to launch the Friends campaign. That was the idea. But machine by machine, all around the country, each machine exceeded 800% higher in sales. It was such a good idea. It wasn't about selling soda. It really wasn't. It was a marketing concept just to launch a campaign. So that's what's considered an experiential idea. If you ever look it up on YouTube, it's out there. You'll find it. The other one is something that we came up with for a large HVAC company. And they were doing trade shows, but they weren't getting results. So we started chiming in and putting our nose in it, and like we always do. And we came up with an idea that 6 foot wide, 6 foot high, complicated, intricate pipes, but not just one type of pipe. Like there was PVC, there was copper, there was flex, it was a DIY project, right? If you were at home, you're going to put duct tape on, you're going to shove rags in spots. And the idea was, it was a maze of almost a cube of 6 by 6 by 6. And the idea was find the entrance and the exit. I can't tell you how many people it attracted. Oh, by the way, if you found it, you won like a free consultation, and there was something else that I think they gave away, like a generator or something like that, which is really cool. And it wasn't easy to find, but it was almost like the jelly bean, like how many jelly beans are in the jar, same kind of concept, but this thing was 6 foot high. So you can see it from across the room. So hopefully you get where I'm going, that your own creativity, your own ingenuity, your own ideas and vision for your company specifically, you come up with something that's unique to you. It's considered experiential marketing. And it can be very powerful, and it costs hardly nothing. So I'm not going to go on and on. I mean, I could. It's my favorite topic. So I want to bring out my guest today so that we can talk about event planning. Uh, Gayle Hellemn, thank you so much for being on the show with us today on the Marketing Perspective.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And yourself?
You are. Um, it's been a long week and it's only Wednesday. So, yeah. Okay. So, you probably heard the intro. You know what we're talking about. We're going to start with planning and marketing and work our way to execution. And you're going to educate us on how to get there. But I'd like to kick off. I'm going to ask you a random question, which my only curveball of the day, by the way.
Okay, only one. All right.
If you wrote a book, what would the topic be?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question. If I was to write a book, the topic would probably be making a difference. That's that seems to be the overarching theme of the things that fly through my head.
Knowing you now, so full disclosure, Gayle and I do know each other professionally. We work together here and there. We help market this expo center, which is incredible, by the way. It's the hidden gem in Wilson County. That more people don't know about it. I don't get it, and that's part of our charge this coming year is to let more people be aware that it's right here and it's so much less expensive than you think. I don't want. I don't want to give it all away, Gayle, but uh, we'll get there. We're going to talk about that in detail. So, knowing Gayle, I think that's very good. And I know somebody that can help you market that book because I think it's a great idea.
You too?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a need for it in the world.
I think it's important to take the experiences that you have and try to apply them. It's kind of the concept of paying it forward. But what I love to see is the collaboration when you get a group of people that bring their collective experience together and they come up with an idea and then they break it down and they kind of chew it up, spit it out, break it down, come up with a plan, move it forward. That's kind of where my strength has always been in the big idea, chop it up, break it out, give everybody tasks, move it forward, and then let the people that do what they do best do exactly that and move it forward. That's what I love to do is to create and move it forward and pay it forward. Ultimately, that's the goal is to try to help other people in some capacity.
Kind of wish our politicians had that mindset. All of them, left, right, and don't. I'm not being political. Don't get crazy with yourselves, people. I wholeheartedly believe that. And so in my eyes, what you just said is almost answering the next question I'm going to ask you to kick this off officially. And I want you to share um, you and your process and what's a day in the life of being the director of marketing and sales at the Farm Bureau Expo Center.
No 2 days are the same, but components of pretty much every day involve obviously fielding calls. We probably book, I'd say maybe one out of every 7 calls for looking for space to rent. That tells me that there's a much greater need out there than what I have the capacity to fill. And fielding calls, and I've got a good team, so the billing and those more office oriented tasks are pretty much handled outside of my office. But the bigger portion of what I do is about building relationships. It's really important that I build these relationships. So, where some might say, "Well, your job is an 8 to 5 job, and you should be in your office, answering your telephone and answering your emails." Well, that is all important. There's no question about that. But what the beauty is with the technology today, I could be sitting in the dentist office answering my emails, or I could be at a client appointment waiting for my opportunity for my appointment to meet with them and answering emails or doing things like that. So I try to wedge that in, the more task oriented things, wedge them in where I can and focus on the people, because the answer to the success of our business is in the people.
That's great. As you're talking, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm so much more productive with clients, sometimes talking just like this. We're still face to face in a sense. I mean, there is something to be said about literally being in the same room at times. I have clients in other parts of the country, and I've lost one. It broke my heart. We were killing it for this one company, 60% growth each year. I was like, come on. And the person said, I just want you physically in front of me. I said, if you want to pay for me to travel 1,000 miles back and forth, I'm happy to do that. But why do we want to put that in the budget and take away from, those dollars going towards you growing your business? It just didn't make sense to me. I said, this is so much more effective. So I do understand that. I feel the same way. I know in my near future, I'm going to wind up being on a boat and doing some of this work. Probably the next 5 years. That's my plan. So I'm with you. I think it's possible. And technology today does allow us the freedom to be able to do that. It makes us more productive. Knowing how many things you do in a day, I think without technology, I don't know how you do it.
Well, thanks. Thank you. I agree. It's if I didn't have it, it wouldn't work. I mean, there's just no way. It would be a different world. What I find most interesting is when you take generational perspective and mix it in, and then you take the need or the desire, like your client that you just referenced wants you in the room. And then you take where is your niche? Where are you the most effective? And you add all that together, boy, you can end up with some conflicts, because it's very interesting to me. Some younger generations that are doing event planning, they don't want to spend more than 5 minutes on the phone with you, and they want everything by email. And so much gets lost in that translation. And I know that sounds really cliche, but it does. It gets lost. And, it's just for them, it's just a check, 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 boom, we're done. You contrast that to an event planner that was just in the expo, who values the interaction and the personal relationship that we have working with them. It's night and day. And I wish more could see that it's a balance between the technology and the relationship. It really is. It takes both to be effective. And unfortunately, not everybody does.
I think part of the reason we related way back in the day, we both have extensive experience to different points to such a degree that we can do both sides. We see both aspects of it, and we can do both jobs. And that's a rarity. And maybe we're a dying breed. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see what happens.
I would like to think that those that don't understand the balance may come to understand the balance.
I would hope. I see that they don't, for the most part, they don't have the desire.
Correct.
Like this is what I do now, and I just don't have to. And I say it openly. And again, if you're listening today, it's because Gayle and I know each other. I don't normally talk like this, as you know, on the show. I've had personal experiences where, I'm not an event planner. I'm not, but I'm a marketing professional for a really long time, longer than I really feel like admitting yet again on air. So I won't. But part of my chair is putting the plans together for the clients that I serve. And we always have some kind of events. There's always experiential marketing included, but that's not what I do for a living. So I always would give it to, I don't know, this is what you do. You're an event planner. Help me. When I met Gayle, Gayle's chair is not to be the event planner, and I'll just brag on you for a second, if you allow me. Gayle's chair is to drive the train. Gayle has to be at 1,000 feet. She is the connector. She's helping with her vendor relationships that are associated with the Expo Center. She's making sure that they have the facility they need. She's lending her insights. But I know that from personal experience, because I'm planning an event there in spring of 25, that without her, I will not be able to do that event. She's already asked me 5, 6 questions, made my head spin. I went, well, that's a good point. Yeah, we really need, what do you mean I need pipe and drape? What, you know, like she lends insights, and you laugh because you know what I'm talking about. She lends the insights from both sides, and that's invaluable in my opinion. So why I was so excited to have you on today, Gayle, is because I know that these questions that I'm about to hit you with, you people, if you're listening, now's the time to start taking out your pen, because we're going to go in deep. We're going to get on the hood. So with that said, before we do that, can you please describe at a high level, describe the Farm Bureau Expo Center, the facility, so that people get a picture of what we're talking about?
Sure. So the Farm Bureau Expo Center, formerly known as the Wilson County Expo Center, when it was first built, it is a 79,000 square foot multi-purpose space that can be rented and utilized for events of all kinds, because we definitely produce events of all kinds. It's municipally owned, and it sits on the James E. Ward Ag Center grounds, which is over 60 acres. So we are right there, the pinnacle front of the grounds. You drive right into us. And then the rest of the ag grounds is behind us, which offers also meeting space, but it's different. It's just different. It's a different look, feel. The ag center behind us is more, I would classify as community oriented, and the expo center is more business oriented.
That helps tremendously. What's parking like?
Parking is free. So let's capitalize on the word free, okay? Because everybody likes that word. And it's my biggest selling point when I'm being compared to Nashville. It's like, yes, but how much is it going to cost to park? But parking is ample, and we have flexed, and I don't know, we've easily handled over 2,000 people parking. But that extends out. It just kind of goes out and around, and just depends on what's happening. But parking is ample, and parking can be adjusted if needed.
With that said, and I don't know this answer, can an event that's utilizing the facility decide to charge for parking if they wanted to make money in that regard?
No, that was a vote by the Ag Committee that would never be allowed.
Okay, so it's just a choice and a decision.
Correct.
Okay, got it. That's good to know. Because that's another thing, if you're listening today, part of the reason you may have the event there is you are trying to generate a profit. You definitely don't want to take a loss. Maybe it's an investment, a marketing investment, or you're doing it for exposure or, brand awareness and stuff like that. But it's got to be an investment. You don't want to just do an event and lose money. That's for sure. I'll just chime in there. Okay. Well, that helps us. I think that paints the picture, I believe. And as I alluded to earlier on, there's much more to event planning than meets the eye, isn't there, Gayle?
There is a plethora of questions to be asked, considered, and planned for and around. Not all aspects apply to every event, so that's important to remember. But the basics do, and something as simple as where should my admissions table be? Seems like a simple question, but it's not, because I have to understand where your attendees are coming from. I have to know where they're, what's the flow of the traffic for the event? How many will there be? Do I need to anticipate that we're going to have a queue line that's going to develop? If that's the case, I want it further down the hallway. So it's a lot of those things. And again, keep in mind, my thoughts, my comments, they can do whatever they want. I'm simply trying to help them avoid problems that they can't anticipate, because either they have never had the event before, or they're new to our space, and that can make a huge difference. So, the ones that I see being the most successful are the ones that will at least entertain the ideas and the suggestions that we offer, because I think it helps them plan better, whether we are correct for their event or not.
Well, even at a high level, let's go through that process. So you got us through admissions, and I would even before we even get there, there's so much else that happens before you get where the table goes.
The
So talk us
majority,
through.
yeah, the
Yeah,
majority is before they get there.
right. So go through that, because I think that's the part that people don't understand. I'm going to do an event, and then all of a sudden they're inundated with, this is time consuming. There's a lot more to it.
Well, you're
So
exactly
please.
right, because a lot of people, they will call and they will say, I'm looking to have, I don't know, I'm looking to have a small trade show. Okay. I'm like, okay, well, can you give me an idea of how many vendors do you think you might have? Well, I don't know. Okay. So it tells me that they have not talked to
Done
anybody.
their homework.
They don't know what their interest level is.
Right.
Is this an event that you're charging for attendance? I don't know. So I start getting a lot of I don't knows. So I need to know, how many vendors are they charging? Are they doing pipe and drape? Is this a multi-day show? Do they need a setup day? Do they need 2 setup days? Because you can have the setup for the actual event to framework what they need to do, and then you have the vendors that need to come in, and sometimes they'll go, oh no, the vendors will just set up before we open. No, they won't. That won't work. And so, that's that back and forth. And to your point, yes, I do inundate them with questions, but that also tells me how much homework they've done in coming
Right.
into the conversation. And then we have to go through the tables and chair setup, and what does your sound and AV look like? And do you have any other specifics? And if they go, yeah, I really want those smoke boxes that have the fireworks that come out of them. Like, yeah, well, that we can't do that, or I want a wide open bar, and and no, what do you mean I have to pay for security? And it's just a
Right.
lot of things, but that again, it goes back to that personal relationship and being able to have that dialogue and show a genuine interest in, I want you to be successful. That's what we're here for. I need to understand what you want to do. And then when do you want to have it?
Right.
And
It should be their vision, not your vision. You're
correct.
executing their vision. Mm-hmm.
Correct. It's not my event. When they rent the expo, I'm very clear to them when, they're like, well, can I have a banner in the hallway? If you're renting the whole building, it's your building. We're just here to help navigate you, not to control you. There are some rules you have to follow, but the point is that we're here to support your success, it's not my event.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I would imagine they have to be respectful of the space. There are some type of events that may trample and cause insurance issues and all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
I can tell you that when I went to Gayle for this event that I'm talking about, I think I answered about half of those questions. I was about. I mean, I knew the number of vendors. I knew the number. I knew that I had done some of my homework, but then there were a couple of questions. I went, I'm sorry, what?
That's okay.
I did ask for power.
We're there to help. We're there to help.
So what Gayle is saying, and I throw myself, on the axe, on the sword on purpose, because that will happen. Like, chances are, unless you are an event planner and do that for a living, if you're just a business professional and trying to have an event at a facility, you will stumble a little bit. But having someone like Gayle is invaluable. I mean, if you can walk in with an event planner, great. Hopefully you find one that has a clue, and Gayle doesn't have to shred to mincemeat when they don't know what they're talking about. I'll say it. You don't have to. Okay, so that was good. At 1,000 feet, that kind of helps us understand the prelude to what happens in an event. So now, this is an odd question. I'm not sure we're ready. No, I'm going. We're going for it. How do you know when an event will be successful or not?
It's in the planning.
What factors go into that?
Do they have a solid plan when they come to me? Okay. Have they allowed themselves enough time to build an event and execute the event, as well as advertise and do all the things that need to be done before they actually arrive for the event? Because if you tell me, if you came to me today and said, I want to have a vendor show and I want 6,000 people there to make it successful, and this is what, July 3rd, and I want to have it in October, I would say it's not going to happen, because you haven't allowed yourself the amount of time that you need to be able to fully execute that event with the proper preparation. You just it's not there. And unless you're willing to lose money to get, establish a footprint. Now, there's a couple events that we've done that they knew going into it they were going to lose money, because they just wanted a footprint. They wanted a precedent set. And that's, if they know that going in, I'm a little bit more comfortable with that. But then you got to remember there's the other side of it, in that an event, the success of an event is also my success. Well, the expo's success, I should rephrase that, the expo's success, because the money that they make and the relatable money that the expo is going to make are tied. All right. There's rent. Yes, I'm going to get paid rent. Yes, I'm going to get paid for, certain things, certain attributes that are within an event. But then there's vendor fees, or there's ancillary fees, or there's ticket fees, or there's those kinds of things. Those are all tied to that as well. So if I'm looking at a wedding, or an event of any kind, a wedding would probably be the most simple. Do I want to have a weddings there? Sure, I do. But if you do an apples to apples comparison and you're looking at a trade show and you're looking at a wedding, the trade show is far more lucrative to me than the wedding, because the wedding is simply the rent. That's all that's ever going to be there. And the trade show is so much more. But the success of the expo comes in the balance of the different types of events. I want to be supportive of the community, but I also need to have a nice, healthy balance of these other kinds of shows. So, people need to have a game plan when they come in, and I don't expect them to know everything, and I don't know everything. I mean, I learn stuff from event planners. Event planners learn stuff from me. It's a, kumbaya type environment. We try to work forward, but not all venues do that. So, that's important too, to know going into it.
Well, that's what in the beginning of the show, when I said it's a hidden gem, it wasn't just the building that I was talking about. It's impressive how it's done. I've been to a lot of events over the years, professionally speaking, and I mean, there's different scale and scope of events, right? And I have been inside this building, the Expo Center, now for 5 years, multiple events. It's always different. It's always a unique experience in some way, unless the two events are very similar to one another, then it's a similar setup and stuff. But I've seen it. I've seen a funeral there. I've seen a trade show there. I've seen the state fair have part of their chops in that building. I've seen, because state fair is on the ag grounds, if you don't know and you're listening. Yes, we're in Nashville and it's in Tennessee, in case you're missing that. It transforms so many different ways. It's a great flex space to be able to use. We're only limited by our own imagination. We're only limited by what our vision is for what we want this event to be. And when it comes to the success of it, I would imagine it's got to be a symbiotic partnered relationship, that working with you, not against you, or not, hey, we'll tell you what we want and just go execute this. And I guess you work like that once in a while, but I would imagine it would be much more powerful if the collaboration was there, and it would lend to a more successful event, in my opinion.
I would agree with you, because the events that I see that enjoy the success that they're hoping for are the ones that are very willing to have that working relationship and that ongoing dialogue that, they know that we're there, we've got their back. They know that we'll do our part in our setup and that type of stuff. People really value that. That event planners that you're like, okay, so if you do your layout, you draw your layout. I don't care if it's in crayon, it doesn't matter, but I need to know what you want it to look like, what you want that footprint to look like. We'll have your tables and chairs where you want them. So you just come in and you just do whatever your event requires, and then you're good to go. And they're like, wait, what? You're gonna do that for us? And they're shocked. But so that's a cherished service that we offer that I'm kind of surprised that some venues don't offer, because it does make a huge difference. It makes a huge difference.
So, side note, when you said that you put the chairs where they want, and part of me went to, I have a lot of friends that are firemen. So I'm sure there's codes, and there's certain things that there have to be in and out, and all the exits have to have clear paths to it, because we're talking about putting hundreds of people in the room at the same time in an emergency. So when you say wherever you want, with the guidelines that you can't put the table right by the door, or there's a capacity that we have to maintain, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's not so much, I mean, it's probably lesser of a concern if it's just a couple hundred people. But if you look at, for example, next week, we've got over 5,000 people going to be there for 4 days. Okay, our safety protocols and are very, very, very important to us. And some event planners appreciate that and some don't. They want what they want where they want. And just to say that, if and so thank you for that, because yes, where you want, as long as it fits within the guidelines that we are required to maintain.
Events like that, and this is, I half know the answer and I half don't. So something of that size that you're talking about, I would imagine you're partnering with local police, sheriffs, and whoever needs to be involved based on the magnitude of the size of the event, because there's traffic flow and all kinds of things. So, and I'm saying this openly because as a person doing an event, you think, well, it's just inside the walls, I don't have to worry about anything else. But there's a lot more to it. Can you speak into that a little bit?
Oh yeah, for sure. So like I mentioned a few minutes ago, you come in the main gate at the X or on the ag grounds, and we're the first thing you see. Um, so that means that our traffic comes in that main gate, our traffic leaves out of that main gate, and there's a constant ebb and flow of traffic coming from around the back of the ag grounds going in and out of those gates. So it's a main port of entry exit for a lot. And if I have an event that's got 100 people, that's a drop in the bucket. They're going to add some traffic to that flow, but not that's not going to be cumbersome. Let's put it that way. Now 5,000 people, that's a different story, because if I have 5,000 people in the expo, that's one piece of the pie. That 60 some acres behind me is also having events. So let's just say, I don't know, they're having a rodeo, or they're having a concert, or they're having training sessions. I mean, there could be probably easily 20 some events behind me feeding into that traffic flow. So yeah, it's very important that, and it's part of my job, is very important to understand what the scope of volume is and how does that impact the traffic flow. There are other entry exits to the grounds, but they're not as highly utilized. Everybody knows the main gate, so that seems to be the default. So we have to coordinate with the Lebanon Police Department for any kind of traffic support outside the gate. And then the Wilson County Sheriff Department offers support for any kind of service that we need from them on the grounds. So, if I'm going to call and mandate, it's my call as to whether or not an event has to have security at the event. And then I coordinate with the Lebanon Police Department as to whether or not they need traffic support. Um, I try not to dictate that because it just kind of feels like, Lebanon Police Department, they know how to manage the traffic. They know their world better. So kind of default to let them drive that. But on the inside, if they're going to serve alcohol in the expo, they're going to have security. If they're going to have adults and a large portion of children, I'm going to require that security be there, or there's just a high number of people. So, for example, next week is the Pentecostal worship convention. They will be in there twice a day for 4 days for extended period of time, having worship services, and then from 11:30 to 4 o'clock be out in the community having lunch, shopping, doing all that economic input into the community. And that's the other factor of an event. But there's a large segment of kids, so security comes into play there. Just like 2 weeks later, I'm having an MMA fight, and there will be security there for a different reason. So, it all fits together, but it's so important because I tell event planners your number one responsibility is communication. I have to communicate with you, you have to communicate with me, and we have to work together.
I'm sorry. Nothing says worshiping the Lord like a fisticuffs,
Well,
headbanging.
that's the adaptability of the space. That's what I
That's my
never
point.
know what, I could walk in. It's amazing to me. Mistletoe Merchants is probably the most fascinating thing to me because I walk into the main exhibit hall and it's empty. Like, okay, it's empty, right? 2 hours later, it looks like a marketplace. Like you're just like,
Wow.
wait, what happened? And then for the next 4 hours, vendors are moving in, and you're like, okay, this used to look like the main exhibit hall, but now it's a completely different thing. And they can be
Right.
done, and we can clean overnight or clean the next morning, and the next day I got something else.
Right.
A reptile show, an MMA fight. You just never know. It's amazing.
So you alluded to something a while ago, and we didn't really go into Gayle's background or anything in the beginning, but Gayle has a pretty strong marketing background, which is one of the reasons we understand each other's language. So you and I both know, like, it's not like Fields of Dreams. If you build it, they don't necessarily come.
That is
So
correct.
can we talk about that just a little bit from your perspective?
Yeah.
Mine will be a whole new show. Like driving traffic to an event, what does it take?
Well, there's always marketing. Obviously, marketing is part of that. If an event planner doesn't have a marketing budget, we need to talk because it's going to be a very fruitless effort that you're going to put forward. But you do need to drive the traffic to the event. And how you drive that traffic is going to largely depend on who's your market. And have you considered all of the aspects of your market? It's usually not just one. It will drive different people, different things. A good example of that is the BMW event that will be coming in 2025. Super excited to be bringing them on board. It's a semi-private event because it's their membership coming together. But let's look at it from a marketing perspective. Well, how do you drive? Okay, so you're there, you're getting your bikes, modified and having good time with that and going on great drives and having great concerts and going on trips and then your membership activities. But then the question becomes, how do you keep your membership increasing? How do you keep that membership number strong? Well, you let the public come to your event so that they can be immersed in this culture that you've created. And then they want to become a member, and then they want to come to your next event. And so that's a real simple example, but that was a conversation I just had yesterday with them. How private do you want your event to be? And they were like, well, they want the public. And I said, well, I would think that the public would drive membership numbers. And it was like, yeah, you're right. So real simple conversation, real simple example, but you do have to know that. And the hows and the whys, I really never thought that there would be a day that I would say that Facebook had value, but it does. It's like, suck it up. Yep, it does. I hate it, but it does, but it works. It does work. And I never would have thought that I would have ever said that out loud to anybody in any capacity, but it does work.
I have
But
proof. I might play it back a few times down the line.
It does work. I do see value in it. I do appreciate it for what it is. I see more value for it as a marketing engine than I do a social connection aspect, but that's just my personal feeling. But that's not the only answer. Anybody who says, well, I don't have to have a marketing budget, I can just use Facebook. But that's not really the case.
It's not.
Again, you have to understand, as you have to understand your market. You have to understand your vendors. What do your vendors need? What do your attendees need? Do you need billboard? Do you need, any kind of other digital marketing? And probably the answer therein is you probably need smidgens of all of that, and some more than others. And it's that combination, again, that I call it the kumbaya effect. It's like the pieces have to come together to serve the greater need to make the event successful. And what
Right.
that looks like is dependent on your event, your market, and who your attendees are.
Well, if you've listened to the show before, if you're listening today, you've probably heard me speak about what DISC profiles and using DISC and communication models. And I'm not going to park here, but if there's four major types of communication, go with me on this, that there are. That means no one marketing tool can actually capture 100% of market share. It's impossible. The only thing what comes the closest is a website, because it could give you high level for the D's. It could give you fun for the I's, and a little bit of detail and comfort for the S's, and the C's need the real drill down, and it can do most of that, but it kind of falls short because depending on how it's designed and structured. So in general, what Gayle just said about multiple touches is really important. You can't just use Facebook, even marketing an event. If you have a local event, if you want 50 people, you could probably get away with something like that. But some of these bigger events, part of the market you're going to pull from is within an hour drive of this facility. So there's a certain geographic, and that's local marketing in its backyard. For the BMW thing, I'm just going to go off on my tangent for a second. BMW, like I know two people in New York that with 100% certainty will show up at this member event. I'm positive that they'll go. So, but do they have to do any traditional advertising to reach people that are 1,000 miles away? They don't. But that's where social will come in, or the newsletter, or other touches that they're doing to capture the audience. My point is that it requires multiple touches, understanding who you're trying to walk in the door, where they're located, and what outcome are you seeking from this event. And if you can answer those three questions, that kind of lays out the things you'll need to satisfy each component of it. That's from my chair, that's a great way to market the event outside looking in. But that was very insightful. Thank you for that, Gayle.
Yeah, well, to add to that, I think that it's important that you have those multiple touches, but you also have the ability to uh, delve into that data to understand where they come from on the back end, so that you can use that to tweak or pivot if you need to, for your next event. I have the ability to work with a CVB who has Placer AI, And, one of the things I told BMW was an added value to working with them was like, I could tell you exactly where everybody comes from. I could tell you what hour they were there. I could tell you how long they stayed. And they were like, really? And I'm like, it will help you in your planning. And they'd never had that before.
Coming from being in this industry for so many years, back in my day, they didn't have a lot of this technology. We couldn't get some of that data, but as much as I don't like Big Brother watching, they're watching anyway. They've been watching always, and we just don't realize it. Now it's a little more transparent, and data, it can be invaluable. You've heard me talk about it before. If you listen to the show, there is good data and bad data. But what Gayle's talking about is spot on, man. As a marketer, the drool comes down my face when you hand me that information after an event. Oh my gosh. It can work both ways. It could, wow, it was abysmal. We really didn't drive the traffic we thought we were going to drive. So then you got to go back and look at, well, how did you market it? What worked? What didn't work? We have to learn from, to your point, learn from the experience and do it better the next time, because you will do another event. So that's really invaluable information. Thank you. So we did talk about the Expo Center a bit, but before I close out, I have one big question. We planned, we marketed. Let's talk about execution just a little bit. So now, what does that look like?
That is 100% communication. 100% communication. I have done more events than I care to admit myself. And some I've had support from the venue and some not so much. So I guess I appreciate the fact that and love the fact that our venue is very, very responsive and very in tune with the communication need. Something as simple as handing the event planner a cell phone number and saying, text this number if you need anything. And we know we have a dedicated team that will respond to that. You don't have to come find us. Just text us and let us know, and we will respond. Tell us where you are, and we will respond to the need. That's huge because they don't feel like they're on an island. They're in a new place. It's kind of like going and being a house guest someplace. Yeah, they have a kitchen and they probably have certain things in the kitchen, but you don't know where they are. That type of thing. So we try to be responsive to that. That communication is critical. And then our responsibility is to be responsive when that happens, when they have a need, and guide them and help them in that support. And this is where the failure to plan and attention to detail begins to manifest. And it's usually simple things like, I have a laptop. Oh, I need an HDMI cable to hook up to that port. They didn't think about that. Or they didn't think about an extension cord. Or they didn't, oh, wait a minute, I totally forgot the tablecloths. Things happen. And trying to be responsive and trying to help them support that. So, we're very clear with them. They have a choice in setup days. They can have a 12-hour day. They can have an 8-hour day. We want them to have ample time. We can walk through that on the front end. So they're able to come in. They're able to set up the framework of their event. And then they're come in the day of the event and have ample time and make sure that they have what they need. And it's our job to be supportive in that process.
Because event planning, in my eyes, is a portion of marketing. When you said fail to plan, there's an old adage about if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and that is a very common problem. And I cannot tell you how many businesses I come across that don't have real working marketing plans in place. They're throwing darts at best. It's sometimes it works. Sometimes for today's dollar, sometimes they're generating money. So they think they're successful, but it's not success. They're not planning for tomorrow. They're not building something. And we're just talking about event by event here, but we're really not. When you talk about companies like BMW, or they definitely will have more than one event. If they have a successful event, why would they not have another one there? And then once they get the formula down, this is kind of brainless. Like, I know the event I'm talking about doing with you, I want to do it every year. It has to be successful the first time, though. And it takes a lot to be able to do that really well. And I see people do things halfway, and I don't. Why do it?
Well, to that point, I think it's sad that companies look at events and marketing and travel to conferences or conventions that can help you, um, really strengthen your skill sets and awareness as fluff. It is perceived as fluff. It is perceived by so many as, do we really need that? It's so optional. Um, and to that, I would say, I'll give you 6 months before you start to feel the effects. And within a year, you are going to come back and you are going to put it back in place, because you will definitely feel the effects of that. And I saw that working in the healthcare industry in so many different ways, but the events were considered fluff. My job was to connect to the community. Those events were critical, absolutely critical. And the healthcare industry would typically go, no, we don't really need to do this. And then they would start to feel the effects of, oh, well, let's put it back. And it was this cycle that just kept repeating itself. And I'm like, at what point do we realize that this is important? This is really important. And the Expo Center is no different. And it's really no business. It's no different for any business. You have to have this arm of your business in place, and you have to support it because it is critical.
Very insightful. Thank you very much. Gayle, we've covered a lot today. And it went so fast. I feel like we're beyond time, so we're going to wrap it up. But I want to make, please, I'm going to give you the opportunity. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you feel you'd like to touch on?
Don't plan to fail. Make a plan. I mean,
Right.
it's so very important. And if you've got somebody that's willing to help you and support you and work with you, and really be there to cheer you on to make your event successful, embrace that. Don't take that as a challenge. Just embrace it, because not all venues have that option for you.
That's great. And my biggest takeaway personally was about communication, of how critical it is. And
Yeah.
you can't assume that the other person knows what you're thinking.
Some people seem to think you can. I don't have that ability. Sorry, I haven't accomplished that. But no, you're right. I mean, I look at it from my end. I want them to plan, but you're absolutely correct. And the communication is just so critical. I tell people constantly, if you have a question, call or email or something, but ask the question. Just ask the question. We will answer the question.
So I want to let's be shameless for a second, because we're both marketers. Gayle, if you'd like, please tell us if people have questions for you, or if they would like to have an event at the facility. Please share how they can do that. How do they contact you?
They can contact us at the office at 615-450-3049. And I also suggest that they check out the website. We have all of the information about, including pricing. So we're incredibly transparent, including pricing on the website, which is farmbureauexpo.com, or Facebook. We're there too.
Okay. And I appreciate you not digging into the pricing part, but I just have to say it. I have never seen like almost 80,000 square feet of usage of a facility with over 2,000 potential parking spots. It is a great facility. I want you, as the listener, for a second, guess how much it would cost just for one day. Just think about it for a second. Now here we are in Nashville. Wilson County, if you don't know, is half hour on a really good day, or depending on the car you drive, or an hour in a little bit of traffic to get downtown. And there's a lot of great venues around. There's venues in other areas too. I don't believe anyone is more cost effective than the Expo Center. Because, Gayle, can you just, without, just very high level, if I just want the facility for one day and I'm going to use the whole thing, what would it cost?
$5,500 a day.
Yeah. So now if you're listening, I'm going to bet that you thought double that number easily. That is the common number and more. There's some that could be $20,000 for the day. So good Lord, if you're listening and you have not utilized this space and you have opportunity to do so, and I can go a half hour further and do it there and save a boatload of money, please consider it. I'll be the shameless one in the room, because why are people not using the facility? I mean, you're booked on weekends, you're booked all year long. It's not easy to get this place is booked out because Gayle's good at her job. So you have to plan ahead. What she said, you have to communicate. She said, and if you could do that, you can save a lot of money on a future event. Am I wrong in my assessment, Gayle?
No, you are spot on.
Okay.
And
Right,
so I would throw out the teaser. If you want to know the other value added to all of that, you have to call.
Yep. Oh, there's more. I know. I know we're being very, because you don't want to hand away to the competition. You really have to contact Gayle, and there's so much more to this. And so hopefully, Gayle, this makes you even busier, and I'm really sorry in advance.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
You guys are pretty busy there. So I want to thank you so much for being on today. Let's leave our audience with a little teaser. Gayle is, we won't say the name yet.
Okay.
Gayle's about to launch her own podcast. And can you just share quickly, what is that show going to be about?
We're very excited about this concept because it's you go back to the communication. And it is an opportunity to sit and visit with event planners, community leaders, local businesses, even tourism-related business that's for our state or other states. And really, we want to talk about the value of, you look at an event and you ask the question, okay, it's an event, but there's so much more behind the scenes and so much more value. And that's what we kind of want to unpack and help people understand not only who we are, but what we do and the impact that it delivers to our community, or any community, actually.
That's all great and good, but I didn't hear on that list of potential guests anything about marketers. Just going to put it out there. Just going to plant a seed that maybe we have
built into that whole thing. You said high level, so I just stuck with the high level.
Here's me campaigning to be on your show now, which is kind of funny. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great show.
To be on yours. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure to have you. You're a joy. You're part of the hidden gem of right here in Wilson County. Hopefully we can change that this coming year. So if you're listening today, thank you so much for being on. You know how we feel about you. We love being able to educate and give advice, and take it, use it for yourself if you can. If you need help, the professionals that we bring on are all people that I would highly recommend you can reach out to. Some of my guests, that you can reach out to them anywhere in the country, wherever you are. Remote is so easy now. Some of these people, we just had a business coach on last week, and we'll have a fractional CFO on soon, and an HR professional, and people that can work remotely that can give you advice. Because if you're an entrepreneur or you own your business, we're good at what we do for a living. We're not good at all the other things. So the real successful businesses learn that and know how to find those professionals around them and have them as consultants. And if you're right in our backyard, man, use Gayle an advisor to you, if you're thinking about doing an event, just kick her tires, ask a question. I know I'll say Gayle's very approachable and she's easy to talk to, and she will give you very sound advice. And if you know me, I'm the same way. I'm Italian. Take me for food. I'll give you a marketing plan in an hour and a half conversation. And I'm happy to do it. Why? Because I'm passionate about what I do, because I believe it can lend to success. And if you're not taking advantage of this kind of stuff, I don't get it. But if you are, I'm really glad you're a part of us. Please share Marketing Perspective with other people so our show continues to grow as it is. We're very thankful for the ones that have done that. And we're looking forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you for being on Marketing Perspective.